My name's Anthony Boudas. I'm a business account manager in Southwest Georgia for Verizon Business Group. I spend a lot of my free time with my girlfriend, our 4 dogs, and then I spend a lot of my free time giving back to my community, whether it's homelessness, drug addiction, alcoholics. I grew up in a city called Worcester, Massachusetts. I made it up to 8th grade, and that's kind of when I started to intermingle with the wrong crowd, and I dropped out of school. I have since then obtained a GED and am now working through my way of using my resources with Verizon to get into college. I started drinking at 10 years old, and I used my first substance of drugs at 11, and it was casual fun. It was sneaking booze at cookouts. It was sleepovers. When I turned 18 years old, I moved to South Florida to kind of get away from my problems. And so I was able to obtain a job with a corporate restaurant in Florida, but I found the same types of crowds that I was hanging out with in Massachusetts. Came the day that, I no longer wanted to drink alcohol. I needed alcohol. I no longer wanted to do drugs. I needed the drugs just to get by. The first set of homelessness came from really couch surfing with friends, but eventually, those friends get sick of me. I've slept on beaches. I've slept on benches. I've eaten out of dumpsters. I'd wake up every morning sick. I've drank hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol just to stop the shakes so that I wouldn't get sick, so that I wouldn't go into seizures, so that I wouldn't end up hospitalized. On September 27th of 2016, I had been up for multiple days, and something had just clicked in my mind, and that was ask for help. I didn't want to live another day. I was a complete shell of a person. I knocked on this random door at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I told the gentleman that I needed help and to call 911. A officer showed up. He took me to the hospital in Indian River County. I tried to check myself out after they put some fluids in me, and they told me that I wasn't going anywhere. But what had happened was at 7:30 that morning, that officer came back in plain clothes off duty and took me to detox. And that was the last time I ever had a drink or a drug. Getting into detox, it was a lot of sleeping, it was a lot of shaking, I was seeing things, but after about 10 or 11 days of just detoxing and getting that out of my system, I started to get back to, what I felt was somewhat normal. So when I had gotten sober, I'd realized, I didn't have a bank account, I didn't have a driver's license, I didn't have a home to go home to, I didn't know how to use a washer or a dryer. I had no self-worth, no dignity, no honor. I couldn't tell the truth to save my life, but I was just relieved that I was in a place that would allow me to start to heal and start to get better no matter how bad I wanted to drink or drug. I went back to the treatment facility. I did my 30 days. I went through counseling. I went back to that owner that I've been working for and said, hey, look, I'm sober again. Can I come back? And, that owner took me back immediately. That's really where my sobriety started to take off. As I came up on my first year of sobriety, a gentleman had actually come into the restaurant. At the end of it, they handed me a Verizon corporate card, and he had told me that he was a district manager, and he told me to go ahead and apply. And that's where I began my process of starting with Verizon. I was upfront and honest with my leadership just so they understood that if something seemed off with me, we could address it in private. Also to figure out what kind of resources I had within Verizon. That turning point for me right there was essentially where they had shown me that Verizon was all in for me on day one, between health benefits, employee assistance program, school tuition, just all these different areas of where I could begin to better my life and utilize resources that I needed. There's a lot of wreckage in my past that I've created that I still have to work on every day, and utilizing these resources helped me in times that got hard for me because life shows up. Last year, I had taken a promotion to retail the business in the Pacific Northwest, and I had really thrown myself out there with 3 years of recovery on my Instagram, where I knew leaders who I don't work for are on there. I took a huge risk, right? Because I didn't know what that was going to do to my career moving forward. But some amazing things started to happen. People started to reach out. Hey, I'm struggling. I have a family member struggling. So I felt that post meant something, that I wasn't the only person struggling in the workplace. I've learned for me that giving back is the most rewarding thing I could ever do. I was selfish my entire life. I've become a son again. I've become a brother again. I love myself today. I love the people around me today. It is okay to struggle. We all have our ups and downs in life, but there has to be a level of responsibility where you have to own your mistakes. You have to own your actions. You have to own your past, utilize those resources, and ask for help.